Today on the Topping Show, Donald Trump freezes $2 billion in funding for Harvard. Mazda is going to put a bigger engine into their iconic Mazda Miata. Karmelo Anthony bail is lowered and he walks out. The Home Alone director is regretting that he put Donald Trump in the movie. And Ford Bronco gets yet another recall. All of that and much more on the Topping Show. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of the Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day. Gotta say he's quite handsome and brilliant. Ease me, see, that's the joke. If you're an IT leader or a business owner, reach out to the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, still giving away a free Flamethrower with every IT purchase with Picatinny rail adapter, so you can mount it to any standard AR-15, like all awesome accessories can be. Go to toppingtechnologies.com and click the Flamethrower button to learn more and see me shooting a flamethrower, or click the URL in the video description below. And lastly, trying to get to 5,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you can click that button and tell your friends, I would greatly appreciate it. Now going over to the business part of the podcast, you have some good news. The iconic Mazda Miata, she's going to get a little bit more horsepower as they put a little bit of a bigger engine in it. Now this comes to us thanks to MotorOne.com, specifically Adrian, who's a writer over there. And there you can see the iconic Mazda Miata in all of its glory, though personally I prefer the hardtop versus the soft top, but I can appreciate a fun little convertible. And they say specifically, quote, Mazda will put a bigger engine into the next Miata. Even better news, the manual gearbox is staying, aka the manual transmission, aka the third pedal, aka the only true way to drive any automobile. It's a rush like any other, or unlike any other rather, and to me you can't beat that feeling of downshifting into a corner at the track. It is pure euphoria, and if you have not had the opportunity yet, I highly recommend it because less than 30 cars are for sale in North America, or rather, grammatically correct, less than 30 new models of vehicles in North America are available for sale with the manual transmission option. I believe it is about 28 left. It's a, unfortunately, a dying breed, but I would argue the best. Now, diving into the article, they say, quote, people tend to criticize cars that have been around for many years, but the MX-5 is the exception. Although Mazda has been selling the ND Miata for a decade, you won't find many enthusiasts ready to move on to the next generation. It is crazy. That's been around for a decade. Some models of cars age more gracefully than others. It still looks pretty darn new. They've done, minor facelifts on this generation, but still looks pretty sharp. Not a big fan of, what is that? A mix between red and purple or something like that. Not a fan of the color, but the styling still looks pretty good. Now, they say, quote, it's understandable considering new cars tend to be larger, heavier, and in most cases without a clutch pedal, but don't fret, as the future Roadster will keep the analog recipe. Which, there's a myriad of reasons of why cars get bigger, heavier, more cumbersome. The government, they have to be safer every year. You have to have increased crumple zones, add 50 new airbags into the walls and ceilings everywhere. And, yes, it has to be, perfect with all the emissions crap. Or rather, your fleet emissions, so you can have one or two fun cars, but overall, mostly boring. And I would argue worse long-term for the environment, but I partially digress. They say General Manager of Design Division Makashi Nakahoma told Road and Track the intent to make the next-gen MX-5 even lighter. Ideally, Mazda wants to keep the current weight below 1,000 kilograms, which is America, so we're not going to use that, which translates to about 2,205 pounds. For reference, the lightest version of the current Miata tips the scales at 2,183 pounds. For Mazda's Japan-only 990 Special Edition, however, the car is equipped with a smaller 1.5-liter engine we won't get in the United States, which, that's fine, they can keep it. They say, quote, if you're tall and hoping for a more spacious cabin, it's unlikely to happen with the next generation, unless the engineers have a magic wand to improve the packaging without increasing the car's footprint. Nakayama says the Miata will remain a small car at less than 157 inches, or as the Europeans might say, 4 meters long. That tells us it's very roughly the same length as the ND, which measures 154 inches, or for the Europeans, 3.91 meters. Master Chief Technology Officer Rachioni Umishata revealed that the next MX-5 will skip turbocharging once again, which, granted, thankfully this car has been around for so long, the aftermarket community is almost, I would say, on par with the plethora of aftermarket community for like the Honda Civic or getting to guns, the AR-15. There is so much aftermarket or third-party support for turbo kits for these things. It's okay, it doesn't come from the factory. Although, again, I think they're leaving money on the table. They could probably charge, I'd say, 5 to 10 grand more per vehicle if they had a trim level for a turbo from the factory. I mean, I feel like kind of like the Subaru BRZ, if you just have a factory option, people will buy and pay a premium for it. Even if, again, I admire them for having a naturally aspirated engine these days. And it's nice to have that because, again, that does increase the cost if you go turbo from the factory. But I still can't believe they don't have like a top tier trim level that would include it from the factory. Nevertheless, they say, quote, the naturally aspirated engine will be a new development compared to the 1.5 and 2-liter Skyactiv G engines found in the ND, recently described as, quote, ideal internal combustion engines. The Skyactiv Z will be a 4-cylinder, 2.5-liter. Without going into specifics, Yumahasha said, power is very good and the fuel economy will be very good, which, yeah, that's one of the things where most car enthusiasts don't give a damn about fuel economy. It's one of those things where, one of the engineers at General Motors, actually, no, I think it's Bob Lutz, one of the CEOs or presidents, firmly said, talking about fuel economy sports cars like a kosher pork chop. It's like, it doesn't really exist. Though I would argue my Honda Civic 2018 Civic Si with a stick shift and turbo from the factory, I mean, if I go slow, I can get 52 miles per gallon on the highway. Still got 205 horsepower. Well, 206 with the K&N cold air intake, but it's still a fun track toy and it's pretty darn good. I still think that's the best of both worlds, but again, given how small this car is and how lightweight it is, should still get good fuel economy, which, again, if you have a budget car, it's kind of nice to have, although I know diehard enthusiasts will say, who gives a damn? It's all about more power, more engine, more fun. It is kind of nice to have, especially in a down economy where, shoot, if I need to drive 60 miles to meet a customer, I can get there just a skosh more than a gallon. That's pretty nice. Now, they say, quote, actually, let's get something on the screen that's more rare than just a car. That's a nice angle too. But look at that beautiful stick shift. 6 gears of glory. And you know what I like? They have that not a lot of cars have? A manual actual parking brake. We just yank it up. Most of them, I hate that about my current Honda, actually. Oh, my 2018 Honda. You have a little anemic, almost like a window switch for the parking brake. I hate that. I love the pull brake. I know the Nissan 400 or the Nissan Z right now also has that combo of stick shift and pull handle for a parking brake or emergency brake. Great for fun and drifting too. But again, that's very rare, but Mazda knows their customers. They know they're going to like that. Now, again, they say, quote, the current Miata tops out 181 horsepower. Not to brag, but my Honda Civic has 205. Well, 207. Although it's kind of funny, like, it's still hard to pass the Miata. Oh, I can pass them a little bit easy on the straightaways at the track. It's the BRZ, Toyota 86, where you got to fight back and forth to really pass each other. But I partially digress. They say, although recently Japan got the slightly more potent 12R version with 197 horsepower, Mazda's CTO explains that keeping displacement at 2 while switching to the Lambada 1 combustion method would result in lower output. That's not going to happen. As the Skyactiv Z has been engineered as a larger 2.5-liter unit, Lambada refers to the air-fuel equivalence ratio. The amount of air is perfectly balanced with the fuel during the combustion. This optimizes efficiency to reduce emissions and improve fuel consumption, which can't help but think they're also doing that for the government. But nevertheless, they say, quote, because Mazda knows the Miata audience well, the new gas engine will be paired with a manual gearbox. It's reassured to hear that the clutch pedal is staying, especially with the growing prevalence of mandated driver assistance and safety features from nanny state bureaucratic, evil, totalitarian globalist governments. Okay, I obviously added that last part. Now, they also know that, again, a lot of those variables contribute to cars having to have an automatic transmission. And they say, quote, as for a purely electric MX-5, the Zoom company is studying it, but admits that it's heavier than the gas model. Who wants an EV Miata anyway? No one on the planet except the 2 idiots in San Francisco. An EV Miata is the dumbest idea since Porsche said we're gonna bend over for the EU mandates and we'll make an electric Cayman. So stupid. Your core buyers don't like it, don't want it. And again, these things are fun track toys. You can't use electric cars at most tracks. 1, because they don't have the fire suppression technology or the insurance to cover it. And 2, recharge time between the sessions, just not feasible with today's technology. Always have to have that caveat because it could be a magical new battery tomorrow. But again, that's with the current technology we have right now. Now, they also said it's still unclear whether some form of electrification is in the pipeline from the new Miata. Given Mazda's promise to keep car small and lightweight, we're inclined to believe that they won't overcomplicate things. A multi-hybrid setup could be a possibility, but the weight penalty would still be there. A fully hybrid, let alone a plug-in hybrid, would be much more difficult to meet the targeted curb weight. Now, they continue saying, quote, whatever Mazda is planning for the next Miata, we're hoping the 2-liter engine will make it to Europe. As its refreshers ND is currently sold only in the smaller 1.5-liter after the 2.0 was dropped due to stricter emissions from the totalitarian European Union. Okay, I obviously added that last part. Now, they say that assuming the next gen will have 48-volt tech, it would increase the odds of seeing a sporty roadster in the EU called a necessary evil. Or just vote differently and grow a spine. Most Europeans can't or don't, it seems. But yeah, you want to know why vehicles are getting so bad in Europe? Governments are forcing them to be that. Now, let's quote. When is the next MX-5 coming out? Probably not anytime soon. The ND3 has been around since 2024, so it's likely to have a couple more years left in it. Mazda is set to roll out the new car, the Skyactiv Z engine, late 2027, starting with the hybrid CX-5. This new 4-cylinder engine being developed to meet Euro 7 regulations in Europe, as well as the Lev 3 and Tier 4 emission standards in North America. Yeah. So again, a little boring in terms of, the European sadness over there. They might make something, subpar. But again, still good news that, there's still fun. There's still a couple pure enthusiast sports cars out there. And man, the more I learn about Miata, the more I wish I bought one years ago. Used to be able to get it for a couple grand on Craigslist. And talk about lost opportunity. If you want a fun track toy, you really can't beat a Miata. I mean, there's this whole section of racing called Spec Miata. They're the craziest SOBs you ever meet. They go balls to the wall, so to say. And pretty cheap consumables for brake pads, tires, oil change, like all the things that wear out quickly at the track. They're relatively cheap, especially compared to competitive different types of cars. So yeah, if you're looking for a fun track toy, can't beat the Mazda Miata. And hopefully, thanks to this news, sounds like we'll have that option for that third pedal for many years to come. And again, if you want to keep that pedal around, go ahead and buy it new. You're going to pay a premium for a new car, obviously. This is definitely not financial advice because it's financially terrible, but it sends a direct message to the manufacturers that we love the third pedal, want to keep it alive, and it makes it financially viable for them so that they actually will. But let me know your thoughts in the comments because, as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Like going over to the Cultural Pod podcast, you have Karmelo Anthony's bail is lowered and released. Now, this is one of the most culturally electrifying topics we've had probably the past 3 weeks. You had Karmelo Anthony, who is the boy on the left, who allegedly, well, I was going to say it's pretty a lot of evidence, but legally I have to say allegedly stabbed a 4.0 GPA student athlete to death because he stole a seat in the bleachers. Or what was it? Karmelo Anthony went to someone else's tent and conflict arose, around taking some spots. Now, this is posted on X from End Wokeness, and he says, quote, I never want to hear white privilege again. And then you hear one of both sides or headlines says, quote, Karmelo Anthony released from jail after posting $250,000 bond. It was previously, I believe, set at $1 million. A lot of people are critiquing the Obama judge lowered it, or the Obama appointed judge had lowered it. And that picture is juxtapositioned with another picture from Give, Send, Go, which they did eventually take this down, which I'm surprised because Give, Send, Go is mostly a leftist organization, culturally, politically speaking. And yeah, before they took it down, it looks like their goal was $500,000 raised, and they raised $423,913 for someone who allegedly stabbed someone else. Which, yeah, kind of bleak that people would spend nearly $500,000 to defend him. And this went pretty viral. It says one of the most viral things Act Wokeness has posted all year. It's got 5.3 million views and 107,000 likes. And thankfully, some pros and cons, or rather for and against. So you have some contrarian statements in the comments, which I like more and more because echo chambers can get a little bit boring. Now, one of the first ones, and I think I actually follow him so I can make sure I have kind of a mix of comments when I look at these things. This is from Trump Tracker. He says, quote, if he was white, he would have never been arrested. That's white privilege. And that got 89 likes and 41 responses, one of the most viral ones to be responded to. Mr. Dan responded saying, so dumb, getting 109 likes. Let's make it 110. As youth might say, ratioing that original comment. You also have Joe saying, quote, January 6th, people were arrested and denied and never took anyone's life. Is that your white privilege that you're talking about? Getting 9 likes. Also, the police let them in. Let's see here. Going back to the main comment section, one of those viral ones comes from the rabbit hole, where there's fine print. I'm trying to see where the statistics are actually from. Let me see here. Hopefully, let's see here. All right, so he has a graph from 2010 to 2020. It says black on white homicides 6,148, black on white homicides 14,689. And this is credited to some, Thanks, Department of Justice, one of the government websites at the bottom. That's what it says in really fine font for the source. And they got 1.5 thousand likes. Now, again, in this case, scrolling back to the top, the alleged killer is African American, and the person who passed away, the 4.0 GPA, collegiate athlete, or no, I guess high school athlete, he was white. Livercat Media Tim says, quote, but there is no such thing. There is such thing as, and it says, black privilege, the ability to break every law of the country and still remain a victim. They got 3.8 thousand likes. I think that's the most liked comment, actually. That shows Sean Hunter Bayshore saying, quote, if you're white, you have white privilege, getting 856 likes. Another contrarian statement. He got 630 responses. So we're going to dive into that response. Let's see here. The first response to his comment is from AJ saying, quote, the privilege should be murdered after asking someone not to trespass while my killer is set free on bond, getting 942 likes. McClainley says, quote, self-hating white people should be classified as mental illness. They hate themselves to show how down they are with non-whites. It's pathetic, getting 515 likes. Trash Money says, so that must mean Karmelo has a black privilege, getting 342 likes. Seth responded saying no, getting 16 likes. Matthew Dill says you're a disgrace to the white race, getting 384 likes. Seth's responded saying that doesn't make any sense, getting 34 likes. Let's see. This profile must be in binary because it's 011, 011. I can't read the whole thing, but it says no such thing. There's only class privilege. There's no such thing as white privilege, getting 95 likes, which, yeah, that's an inconvenient truth a lot of people talk about in terms of a lot of people try to boil down cultural differences in the United States based upon race, when a lot of people, I would argue in terms of who has more advantages, it'd be like, well, who has more of a resource allocation based on class, based on your jobs, your career trajectory. That's not brought up as much, culturally speaking, but it is a top topic in the United States. G says completely and utter bullshit, getting 402 likes. Someone by the name of Selling the Bomb has a picture of Trump pointing, says, you're the bundle of sticks, getting 87 likes. So this person was mostly ratioed in his responses. But again, he originally got 865 likes. Crazy Vibes says, quote, accurate. It's a picture of a bumper sticker saying they don't hate racism, they hate white people. They got 2.6 thousand likes. Scrolling down more and more. Sergeant Williams says the same quote. It says, black privilege, ability to break any law, still remain victim. They got 4.9 thousand likes. Crazy Vibes says, this is the caption of a football and track team. Sorry, this is what the captain of a football and track team looks like according to the Karmelo Anthony's parents. And it's Karmelo Anthony. Now, in this picture, he is wearing a sweatshirt. As we all know, true men always suit up, obviously. It's a beanie. He's holding God, those things are so comically useless. Is it the Draco? Is the AK-47 without the stock? So it's a pistol, legally speaking. To his credit, he actually has good trigger discipline. It looks like his finger is not on the trigger, but it looks like he is. I don't know if I don't know if he has a seizure or he's doing a gang sign, but he's doing like a sign of a hand gesture. Again, I'm a big gun nut, so he's holding the gun safely. Trigger is not on the finger. It looks like it's pointed, placed over the. Although it is curling a little bit, man. But that did get 1.2 thousand likes. Scrolling down more and more. Take This Viral said, ironically, they got 1,000 likes. It's moderately viral. Says, quote, there is black privilege 100%. You're witnessing it before your eyes. Gain 1,000 likes again. Scrolling down more and more. Let's see here. Roger X. Peterson says, quote, why is the left so blind? And it says, who brings a knife to a track meet? People buy private tents for their friends and family to keep their belongings somewhat safe. Karmelo sat under someone else's tent, and he illegally brought a large knife onto school grounds, getting 129 likes. Let's see. Arkel Bloss says, Bloss? I think that's how you pronounce her name. Let's see. She says, quote, race baiter, $250,000 for the first time for juvenile substantial STFU. First time offense, but it's also a pretty big alleged offense. Like murder. They got 433 likes, though. Thinks Langman says, quote, Pam Bondi needs to charge him with a hate crime, getting 361 likes, which, again, we also don't know if it really has anything to do in the race in terms of the actual confrontation. So, again, unless there's a previous post of him, previous social media instances of Karmelo actually posting online things about the gentleman who passed or allegedly killed that were directly about race, I'm not sure if you actually get that charge. Also, white on black in terms of, race charges or hate crimes. They never actually go for those. So it'll be interesting to see how this pans out. But this is, again, one of those viral cultural things in the United States right now. But let me know your thoughts in the comments, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting cultural news, you have the Home Alone director regretting putting down Trump in the movie. How dare he? Because I can't help but think he's, well, a leftist or a loser. Again, it was a movie decades ago, and now he's crying about, oh no, I shouldn't have put Trump in it. Again, Trump was not a main character, although some might say he owned the scene, so to say. I mean, this is, what is about 15 seconds? Before we get to the post on social media, we'll show you, I mean, we all remember it, but why not watch it one more time? Here you have Macaulay Culkin going to the hotel, and this is less than 15 seconds of screen time that this director and some people are crying about.
Excuse me, where's the lobby?
Down the hall and to the left.
Thanks.
That's it? And yet people are crying about it. And this went viral. This happened a couple years ago. And of course, they're still whining about it. So this is thanks to Pop Bass saying, quote, Home Alone 2 director Chris Columbus says he wants Donald Trump's cameo removed. Now this is from the Week director saying, quote, I just wish it was gone. I can't cut it. If I cut it, I'll probably be sent out of the country, which is mentally vacuous. He wouldn't. Trump wouldn't. Obviously, you can't boot someone out of the country for altering their original work of art. And again, this is something I think a lot of directors and artists also struggle with is, once you make something, leave it alone. George Lucas is probably the top offender of trying to change his old movies. I mean, there's rumors that he doesn't even have, that there's not even original copies of the original films these days, from Star Wars to Indiana Jones, because he made so many alterations and so many updates. And yeah, with this one, there wouldn't be much of a controversy if this director just said nothing. In fact, that would have led to very little controversy at all, because at the time, pretty much everyone loved Donald Trump, left, right, center, libertarian, Republican, Democrat. I mean, he was just a famous, successful businessman. Most people liked him. I would say majority of the country. I mean, he's in everything. He was everything from popular rap videos to, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, movie cameos, Domino's pizza commercials. Guy was everywhere. I mean, he would probably say something kind of, I'm the best at marketing. They'll pay me not market anything from a pizza to Donald Trump vodka, which I don't even drink because I don't drink. But in all seriousness, guy was everywhere. And it was a fun, cool cameo at the time. So many people associate Donald Trump with New York because of all the real estate development. It made sense for, New York, Home Alone. Why not have Donald Trump in it? And now the director's like, oh no, I shouldn't have done it. If the director said nothing at all, I think it would hardly be any controversy. Now this went pretty well. I got 2.9 million views and 182,000 likes. And here you can see Pop Bass also has a picture of him, or a picture of the original article, San Francisco Chronicle, talking about how the director's crying. Now you also have Jason Turner saying, quote, this fool loved Trump until his liberal friends told him not to. How embarrassing, getting 9.9 thousand likes. And I can't help but think, hitting the nail on the head. Now, there also, I believe it is Canada, there are a couple of areas where streaming services actually removed the scene of Donald Trump from Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. Which, yeah, that's pretty creepy and messed up. You have RJ saying, quote, Trump is the greatest president in modern history. He needs to keep it, getting 1.7 thousand likes. John Paul says, quote, whether you like Trump or not, I think ARC is severely diminished in value when it's altered after release. Revisionist history type shit, getting 919 likes. Wow, I was going to say 920. Let's make it 921 likes. There we go. Going up like a stock. Well, stocks back in the day. It's been a little rough past couple of weeks. You also have Eyebrows saying, quote, Chris Columbus is a effing cuck. Made some classic movies from my childhood, but lost respect for me that he said this, getting 855 likes. You have, I can't read these Asian letters. Says delusional, getting 105 likes. Brandon says, well, loser mentality, getting 3.4 thousand likes. Dennis Guini says, quote, he has a meme of some medical pills. It says, MAGA strength, Trump and all, Trump derangement syndrome, getting 103 likes. Let's see. Not seeing any contrarian statements thus far. Adam Ramos says, it's a great movie, but stop being such a weirdo about politics. Get over yourself, Mr. Columbus, getting 33 likes. Shane says, love Trump enough to put him in a movie, then suddenly he runs against the Democrat Party, and now he's evil, getting 915 likes. There's also rumors that Trump said they can use the hotel for the movie, if he put himself in there, or Trump was in the movie too. So I'm not sure if originally the director was like enamored with Trump or liked him with Trump, or, maybe that was a variable. Scrolling down more and more. The World of Truth says back in the day, everyone on the left loved Trump. Unreal, getting 69 likes. Yeah, I mean, left, right, center, everyone liked him. Common Man, with one of the parentheses around his name, says, quote, same energy. It's a picture of Joseph Stalin, where famously he had people just completely removed from pictures. And yeah, so there's one of the most famous pictures of Joseph Stalin where he had someone removed from it. I forget what this specific picture is called, but yeah, this type of revisionism, 1984 hit, is quite this historic stuff is quite scary. Now again, this is Hollywood film. It's not to the same level of politicians like that, but yeah, I've never. I mean, I really can't. Oh, we do have a contrarian statement. Skymore source says replace it with this version, and that's terribly dark humor. But I will read it. And they made this a meme with Trump and Macaulay Culkin. It says, quote, Epstein Rune, I'll show you right this way. Getting 5.5 thousand likes. It's quite a few to say the least. But let me know, are you a fan of when artists change, the actual film? Do you think the film would it lose any of its essence if they took Trump out? Did you even notice that scene when you were a kid, or did it mean a lot to you? Let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the political part podcast, you have Donald Trump freezing $2 billion in Harvard funding after they doubled down on DEI, which for Harvard, they probably won't even care because it's $2 billion, but they've got quite a pretty penny in the bank, or more accurately, investments. Now, this comes with thanks to Libs at TikTok, and she says, quote, Donald Trump freezes $2 billion in funding to Harvard after they doubled down on DEI and refused to address anti-Semitism on campuses. As of the end of the fiscal year 2024, Harvard University's endowment was valued at $53.2 billion. Why are we still funding them anyway? That's a damn good question. There's not a single reason we should be. And this should have gone more viral, I thought. It's got about 572,000 views as well as 16,000 likes. And there's a screenshot from BBC, an article by Brandon Darien, and it says Trump freezes $2 billion in Harvard funding after university rejects demands. And Harvard University says, quote, this is from their X account, and they got 3.9 million views. Now they say, quote, the university will not surrender its independence or relinquish its constitutional rights. Their constitutional right to discriminate against people, is that what they're saying? Again, this is literally colleges. They got busted a couple years ago for being anti-Asian in terms of discrimination with their admissions. Funny how that story is quickly swept under the rug. But again, Harvard specifically has been busted multiple times for discriminating against applicants who are trying to get into school. Now again, I'll restart this quote from the beginning. They say, quote, the university will not surrender its independence or relinquish its constitutional rights. Neither Harvard nor any private constitution can allow us to be taken over by the federal government. Getting 3.9 million likes from their tweet. If you're a private business, I think you do whatever the hell you want. If you're receiving money from the government as a public university to the tune of $2 billion, you kind of have an incentive to be doing to what they would argue. You're supposed to be following the law. You're supposed to be not discriminating against people, but Harvard wants it so badly. They'd rather miss out on $2 billion than just not discriminate against people, which kind of shows you what Harvard and that mentality is all about. And going to the comments, one of the first ones comes from this TikTok saying, quote, Harvard may also lose their tax exemption status. And Trump said, quote, perhaps Harvard should lose its tax exempt status and be taxed as a political entity if it keeps pushing political, ideological, and terrorist-inspired supporting sickness. Remember, tax exempt status is totally contingent in acting in the public interest, unquote. A damn good point. And I got 1.2 thousand likes. Now, Gunther Eagleman says, quote, why are taxpayers funding private colleges to begin with? Getting 7.8 thousand likes. Great question. We shouldn't. We look at all the wasted spending we have in the United States. That's insane. Now, Matt Van Swol also says, just to put this into perspective, we give Harvard 4 times more money than the entire Small Business Administration, the SBA. Read that again, getting 10,000 likes. Cat Turd simply says, good, getting 99 likes. The Cat Media TM says, quote, anti-Semitism will only continue to spike at places like Harvard because they promote it. And let's see. What's in here? Looks like a graduation speech. Well, they have a cap and gown, so I assume. So these are mentally evacuated students waving the Palestinian flag, which you're graduating from Harvard. One would think of all the flags, you would be probably maybe waving the Harvard flag. or the United States of America flag. But no, of course, they're waving the flag of another country. Why are they allowed to be here again? I mean, remember when people would assimilate in the United States? My family came here from Cuba. We don't own a damn Cuban flag because it stands for the totalitarian Castro family. Again, the people of Cuba are great people, but the government's so evil and corrupt. Why would we ever represent that? We don't. It's ridiculous. Looks like someone is twerking or having a seizure right there. I can't tell the difference. Either the cap and gown right there, the bottom left corner. Oh, Elon, what's up with this? It's taking more than a second to load, which in modern times is an eternity on them internets. Granted, the age-old question is IT, or rather the age-old accusation is it's the network. Fun fact, after a quick test, you can assure the team and the customers or then users it is in fact not a network issue. And I always check I have redundancies, but I also check my network before I do any episodes. And spoiler alert, yeah, the bottleneck in the equation is not on my end when you have these type of issues with videos not playing on X. Let's see if it goes through this time. What a week conquered university. All the Palestinian flags, not a single American flag, not a single Harvard flag even. I'm surprised that only got 22 likes, but I thought it was interesting. Paul Zazupa says, quote, not a single tax dollar should be going to any anti-Semitic college or university. Harvard is no exception, getting 62 likes. Mr. Will Johnson says President Trump should shut down that money coming from outside the country to Harvard. That is why they're pushing back, getting 107 likes. That's another big contributing factor, I think. A lot of people don't realize how much China donates to universities across the U.S., not just Harvard. And a lot of people wonder, why are they doing this? I cannot think. Brainwashing. The undercurrent says, quote, imagine sitting on a $53 billion and still begging taxpayers for lunch money so you can teach kids to hate the country that funded it. I should get more likes. Got 71 likes. I threw it a like too. Let's see. Any contrarian statements? Homeschool Queen Bee says, good. It says Harvard class of 2025. It's a bunch of students with kitchen towels on their head and face, which there is probably a technical term. I don't necessarily mean to be pejorative in that regard. Because I know the hijab is an actual cloth one, but these are like the kitchen towel fabrics, which has to be like one of the top 10. That is like the top 10 export of Pakistan. I'm only partially kidding. I actually did an analysis once where I was covering Pakistan in the show. And I was like, what are the top 10 exports? Do we do business with them? It is in fact fabrics. That is a real thing. On ADHD fact of the day, Olivia Krinzinski says, quote, not a single dollar should go to the school, getting 31 likes. Again, they have $53 billion endowment. That's insanity. $53 billion. And it looks like every year they get about $2 billion from us. That's just insane. So I can't but think, yeah, they should not be getting any of that $2 billion. But let me know your thoughts and comments, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the business blunder of the day, you have Ford Bronco Sport getting recalled yet again. This is a consistent theme for the Bronco, especially. Now, this comes with thanks to Car and Driver, and specifically Eric Stratford, who is a writer over there. And he says, quote, Ford Bronco Sport Escape recalled again for a possible fuel leak. The issue, which wasn't fixed during the earlier recall, affects 2021 to 2003 Bronco Sports and 2020 to 2022 Escapes with a 1.5-liter engine. And I do apologize. This article was a couple weeks ago. I actually missed it, skipped through the cracks, much like the fasteners and nuts and bolts on a Ford vehicle. Now here you can see the Ford Bronco in all of its glory, which, to Ford's credit, I do appreciate that in 2025, they make a SUV with a stick shift. They're basically the only one with the Bronco. Now, granted, if I won the lottery, I get a Porsche SUV with a stick shift, but they only made a couple times, 2008, 2009, the V8 for the GTS Cayenne. And then more recently, I think it's 2016, that's a V6 though. But I partially digress. I appreciate the fact that they make a fun stick shift SUV, though again, they've had over 12 recalls for the Ford Bronco since they started making that darn thing. And yeah, that's not great for brand recognition or the customer experience. Now, they also know it covers the Ford Escape, which when I used to work at HPE, if you paid extra, you get the company car, which is the SUV versus the Ford Focus. And you got the Ford Escape. So to try to sound fancy, we used to always call it the Ford Escape, which was perhaps juvenile, but I also thought hilarious. Which, yeah, it's a Ford, so gotta know something's going to happen. Now they say, quote, Ford is recalling 15,355 Bronco Sports and 18,201 Ford Escapes due to a possible fuel leak. Another reason why you should not smoke in the vehicle. They say, quote, quote, it's not deja vu. Ford is once again recalling the Bronco Sport and escape due to the possible fuel leaks on the model with a turbocharged 1.5 3-cylinder engine. The latest recall stems from a earlier recall earlier this month for the same thing. Well, the company says it wasn't correctly fixed the first time. Wow. They see in total affect 33,576 units. Ford says its records show that while the previously recalled Bronco and Escapes were reported to be repaired, they actually weren't. That means it's still possible for the engine's fuel injector to crack and leak fuel or fuel vapor that could interact with hot surfaces and possibly start a fire. The fix itself requires updating the software for the vehicle's powertrain control module. However, during the original recall, the tool to do this didn't properly upload the software. And these companies want to be tech companies making EVs. A friendly reminder, Ford lost $5 billion on EVs in 2024, and they're slated to lose $5.1 billion in EV in 2025. Yeah. Now, they say, quote, so owners will need to return to their local Ford dealership yet again, which of all the dealerships that should have a really nice, like, quality lounge with, like, food and coffee, it would be the Ford Service Center, because you're going to be there a disproportionate amount of time in your life. I mean, they should have really nice, like, leather couches there so you can chill. But I partially digress. They say, quote, the work will be done for free, and Ford will notify its dealers by April 24th, and owners will be affected by May 1st, which, again, just tune into the show where we usually cover these automobile recalls a month or two in advance. And again, this isn't Ford's had this issue, I believe, also with the Mustang, where they've had a recall for a recall. And again, I appreciate Jim Farley. I think he's a great CEO of the company. I appreciate the fact he's a gearhead, he's a car guy, sports enthusiast. And since day one, when he took the realm, he's been focusing more and more reliability, but this stuff keeps falling through the tracks. And I can't but wonder, do they have anyone in the quality assurance department? They're already a myriad of jokes when it comes to Ford vehicles and reliability. I mean, that's been around for decades. And to have one of the most important vehicles in your lineup, because again, SUVs are one of the most profitable things automobile manufacturers make. There is a reason Ford stopped making all cars except the Mustang. They weren't making any money on it. GM, same thing. They killed the Chevy Cruze, which I kind of love that little car because I had one. They killed the Chevy Cruze because they weren't making a profit on it. Usually the smart cars are just, competitively priced. They just stopped making them because no profit. SUVs and trucks really make a majority of the profit. Most important thing Ford does for the shareholders and the employees. It fuels the company. And yet, your most important things, you're not protecting, especially this Bronco, which again, it's been a fiscal success in terms of, a lot of sales. It's a really cool off-roading vehicle. A lot of enthusiasts like it. But again, the fact that they have a recall for a recall, Ford, I gotta say, once again, you're certainly the business blunder of the day. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Again, trying to get to 5,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you can click that button, I greatly appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or comment. It's a great way to give me some initial feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.